put that on 50. That's why 50 hate them so much.
I looked at that experience as something that was unfortunate that I had to, because
I forget, why the guy shot you 9 times? Was it drugs or something?
It was paid to do it.
He was paid to do it.
He got paid to make it happen. Gene Deal just flipped the whole script with a claim that's got both the music scene and the streets in shock all over again. Gene didn't hold back. He says that old school beef between G-Unit and Murder Inc., it wasn't just about music or egos clashing. It ran way deeper than anybody thought. And it wasn't just about diss tracks flying back and forth. Gene says Ja Rule was allegedly moving behind the scenes, real power moves. According to him, Ja put $25,000 on the table, and it wasn't for some feature or a beat. Nope, that cash had one name on it, 50 Cent. And guess what? Gene claims Irv Gotti knew everything. He didn't sugarcoat a single thing. He said it plain. Ja Rule and Irv were putting out contracts. That's a heavy accusation, especially when you're dealing in a world where music beef sometimes spill into the streets. Gene said that $25,000 wasn't just some random number, it was a message. Everybody in the game supposedly knew what that meant. That figure had serious weight, especially during that era. And Gene didn't just say it once, he doubled down during a podcast sit-down, saying this wasn't street gossip. He says it was being whispered in green rooms, talked about in studios, and passed around through the back doors where music business and real beef collide. He painted a wild picture, artists, label execs, affiliates, all allegedly aware of what was really bubbling under the surface. Not just music drama, but something dangerous circling the game. Now people are asking, how real was this? Was it just posturing during one of hip-hop's wildest chapters, or was something much darker lurking underneath the spotlight? Gene Deal dropped a bomb, no doubt, and the internet can't stop digging. No one was ever charged or officially linked to what happened to 50 during that insane time. But the events, they speak loud. Gene's claims have ripped the lid off a chapter folks thought was long buried. He's saying that what looked like a regular rap war had way more heat under it. So let's break it down. First, 50 Cent starts going at Ja Rule and Irv Gotti. Public jabs, music disses, interviews, it all blows up. But then, things start to shift into real-life territory. While recording at the Hit Factory, 50 reportedly clashed with someone from that crew. And this wasn't just hearsay. Black Child, who was rolling with their side, even admitted publicly that he pulled a blade on 50. That was already wild, but it didn't end there. Just months after that studio incident, 50 Cent got ambushed outside his grandmother's house. It was an attack that would shape the rest of his life. To this day, no federal charges ever linked Ja Rule or Irv to that moment. But Gene's words, they got people side-eyeing the whole timeline. He's saying the big players knew exactly what was going on back then. This ain't just rap anymore. Gene's throwing serious heat into the conversation, and people are listening. He wasn't just the brains behind Ja Rule's rise, he was the architect of that whole era's sound. Irv Gotti moved like royalty in the rap game. But if you ask folks who were really around back then, they'll tell you his influence reached way past hit records and shiny plaques. People always whispered it. Irv wasn't just running music plays, he was allegedly tapped into other lanes too. And that tied to Supreme, that wasn't just some friendly link up or shared respect. Nah, that was deep. Supreme held real power in Queens, and Irv, he was right there in the core of that circle. So when the feds came knocking in the early 2000s, accusing Murder Inc. of being more than just a label, alleging it was a front to clean street cash, nobody was shocked. The headlines were blazing, and the charges? Serious. It wasn't just noise, it was a full-on federal storm. Now Gene Deal's throwing in a whole new twist. He says Irv might have made a call when things got too hot with 50 Cent. And people, they're listening. Gene ain't just talking wild. He's laying it out like Irv didn't need to get his hands dirty. He had a crew around him who could flip the switch with just a nod. That's the level Gene's pointing to. Real boss energy, quiet power, no middlemen. And remember, this beef between Irv and 50, it was never just music. This wasn't about chart positions or video spins. Things turned serious fast. 50 got stabbed at the Hit Factory, and right after, Irv's camp tried to do damage control, waving around documents saying it wasn't what it looked like. But Gene Deal ain't buying it. He's saying the whole narrative was twisted on purpose. And when you line up everything Gene's been saying, It paints a way darker picture than anything we ever heard on a diss track. When things started spiraling back then, Irv's team tried switching the game plan. They started calling 50 a snitch. According to Gene, that move had zero proof, just a desperate way to tear down 50's rep in the streets after every other tactic flopped. Mediation talks had failed, and suddenly these whispers got louder and dirtier. Then came the darker rumors, the kind that don't get said out loud unless it's serious. But here's what really throws people off. Years later, Irv's out here hopping from interview to interview, still playing it off like none of it was real, like he was the one done dirty by the industry. Scared? Maybe. On multiple platforms, Irv keeps telling the same story, that he got shut out, blackballed, left behind while 50 shot to the top. He even dropped a chilling line on Vlad TV, saying 50's got the devil on his side. That ain't just a slick comment. That's coming from deep frustration. And that one line, it's got people thinking, why would you say something like that unless you really tried everything to bring someone down and failed? Gene Deal's not letting that slide though. He's flipping Irv's whole version of the story upside down. He says Irv wasn't blackballed, he just finally got exposed. All those behind the scenes plays, all those connections, all that noise, it couldn't save him once the truth started creeping out. And here's the real kicker. 50 Cent himself is backing Gene's version. He's even gone on record saying Gene's one of the only ones in the industry who keeps it real. That kind of cosign, that speaks volumes, especially when Irv's still out here doing podcasts and documentaries, acting like the game left him behind. But according to Gene, and now 50, Irv didn't get left behind. He just ran out of places to hide. Gene ain't talking in circles. When he says stuff was getting plotted, he means real moves, real people, real consequences. This isn't about rap fantasy, it's about what was allegedly really going down in the shadows while the world watched the stage. He was labeled too risky, too loud, too raw, not because of his music, but because of what he uncovered. 50 Cent had a habit that rattled people. He named names. In that era, doing that wasn't just bold, it was dangerous. How to Rob already had folks side-eyeing him, but then came Ghetto Quran. And that was the one that crossed the line. That track didn't just throw jabs at rappers, it spilled secrets, real ones. It laid out names and ties to street dealings that certain people had worked overtime to keep buried. 50 blurred the line between rhymes and real-life receipts, and people in power. They weren't feeling it, not one bit. He wasn't just stirring up controversy, he was exposing the network behind the scenes, a network that thrived in the shadows. And with names like Supreme and Jimmy Henchman involved, people connected to major acts in big business, 50's rise wasn't just disruptive, it was threatening to the entire machine. By the time the dust settled, it was clear. Labels didn't want any part of him. Not because he lacked bars, not because his numbers were off, but because he brought baggage, the kind that had executives sweating in their glass offices. The headlines were too wild, the ties too tangled, and no one wanted their brand caught in that storm, especially when they knew 50 had just survived something that was supposed to end him. Instead of protecting him, an artist who just dodged death, the industry slammed the door. They acted like he was the problem, like he dragged danger to their front porch. But Gene Deal is calling that out, saying that silence wasn't about fear, it was strategy. It was all about protecting certain names and keeping the big machine running smooth with no interruptions. And just when you think it couldn't get murkier, boom, a twist. Just weeks after the hit on 50, Daryl Homo Baum, a man tied close to Supreme's inner circle, was gone. Vanished. The timing? Too perfect. Too clean. Whether it was a street-level fallout or a piece of something way bigger, Gene's point is clear. It worked. After that moment, the silence was deafening. Nobody wanted to talk. Not to police, not to reporters, not even behind closed doors. It was like a switch flipped. The message was loud. Stay quiet or disappear. Gene says that wasn't some random chain of events. It was a system. A whole setup designed to shield Murder Inc., protect Supreme, and erase anyone who might blow up the real story. It wasn't just about saving a label, it was about protecting the power behind it all. Meanwhile, 50 Cent, He got pushed to the edge, not because he was causing trouble, but because he survived it. He made it through something that was supposed to shut him down, and that made him dangerous in a whole new way. The machine couldn't control him, so it tried to erase him instead. Before the heat closes in on everybody, the pressure's already building. RICO whispers, lawsuits flying, feds circling and tighter every week. And Gene Deal, he's been in the game long enough to know exactly what that looks like. If there was ever a moment to speak before everything hits the fan, it's right now, and he knows it. But Gene's making one thing clear. This ain't about saving his own skin. He's fed up watching powerful names dodge accountability while the ones who got hurt get left behind and forgotten. He's sick of seeing real pain flipped into album rollouts, press tours, and catchy headlines. This ain't just about spilling tea. Gene says he's out here trying to reclaim the truth before it gets buried under one more $1 million deal or scripted podcast exclusive. He's tired of watching people profit off a history built on silence, threats, and survival. He's not chasing clout. He's not out here looking for revenge. Gene says this is about getting the story right, for the ones who didn't make it, for the ones still too scared to speak. He wants the truth pulled out from under platinum plaques and podcast clips and put on the record, raw and real. But here's the twist. Is Gene Deal really exposing the truth? Or is he flipping the story before someone flips his? That's where the conversation gets loud. Some folks are calling him a straight-up whistleblower, a rare voice with the guts to call out what's been festering underneath the glitz. They say he's peeling back layers the industry never wanted touched, shining a light on names and connections that were supposed to stay in the shadows forever. But not everyone's buying it. Others say Gene's just doing damage control, trying to rewrite his own role before someone else does it for him. Maybe he's trying to polish his legacy, clean up the timeline, and get ahead of a narrative that could turn on him real quick. And let's be real, the truth? It probably lives somewhere in between. Because here's the fact, Gene was in the room. He stayed silent for years. But now, he's dropping names, talking dollars, linking motives, and every time a new clip hits, more people tune in. The wildest part? Not many folks are stepping up to shut him down. And that silence? It's loud. So what does that tell you? If Gene's telling the truth, then somebody's still got blood on their hands. And this industry might be sitting on secrets darker than anything on a diss track. And if he's not, then somebody else is waiting to talk next, and the story might flip again. Either way, we're watching history unfold in real time. So stay locked in, because this rabbit hole goes deep. Don't miss what's coming next. Like, subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss the drops. This ain't just hip-hop drama, it's a real-life saga still unfolding in the shadows of the spotlight.